What was daily life like for the pharaohs? The pharaohs were the rulers of ancient Egypt from around 3100 BC to 30 BC. The role of the pharaoh was both political and religious. He was considered a god on earth, the embodiment of Horus, the sky god, and was responsible for maintaining Ma'at, which means truth, justice, and order in the universe. What did daily life look like for these powerful rulers? Let's find out. The morning ritual. The pharaoh's day began with a ritual bath. He would be washed with either milk or beer, then scrape off the dead skin and cover himself in scented oils. Then the royal barber would shave his body except for a neat little strip of hair above his upper lip. Next, the pharaoh would dress in a fine linen kilt and a decorated headdress. While this was going on, servants would anoint him with more perfume and put on his makeup, which may have helped protect his skin from the harsh sun. A typical Egyptian day started at sunrise, which was announced by the rising of the sun god Ra over the horizon. So the pharaoh had to get up early, usually between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m., and immediately go through his morning rituals. First, he would wash himself with either milk or beer, depending on whether he wanted a soothing or invigorating scrub. Then he would scrape off the dead skin and cover himself in scented oils. His barber would then shave his body except for a neat little strip of hair above his upper lip. Finally, he would dress in a fine linen kilt and a decorated headdress, more perfume, makeup, and maybe some jewelry, and he was ready to start his day. Royal duties. After the pharaoh was dressed, it was time to tend to the business of the kingdom. Unlike modern-day monarchs, the pharaoh was very involved in the day-to-day running of the country. He presided over the courts, led military campaigns, and even had a hand in the construction projects. There were scribes that recorded all the official acts of the pharaoh. When the pharaoh went to court, there were officials who preceded him announcing his arrival. When he entered, everyone in the court prostrated themselves before him. The pharaoh's wife could sit next to him or behind him on a throne. In some cases, she would act as a regent when the pharaoh was away. Sometimes the pharaoh's children would attend court with him. As they grew older, they would take on more responsibilities and eventually rule as co-regents. They would also receive an elite education, learning how to read and write, practicing their public speaking skills, and studying the art of war. They would learn about religion and theology, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, agriculture, and the law. Occasionally, the pharaoh would hold a feast or party. These events were not only for the enjoyment of the pharaoh and his guests, but also served as a way to show off the wealth and power of the Egyptian kingdom. During these parties, there would be music, dancing, and lots of food and drink. There would also be games and entertainment, such as acrobats, jugglers, and animal trainers. The pharaoh might also preside over religious ceremonies and festivals. These events were important to the Egyptians, who were a very religious people. They believed that the pharaoh was a god, and they wanted to show their support for him and his divine right to rule. They would have paraded through the streets with banners and flags and maybe even ride on golden chariots. It was a chance for the common folk to show their loyalty to the pharaoh and to get a glimpse of the divine ruler. The end of the day. After a long day of ruling, the pharaoh would return home to his palace. Here he could relax and enjoy the comforts of home. He might take another bath, this time with his wife, and then they would eat dinner together. Once the pharaoh had finished eating, he might spend some time with his favorite pastime, such as playing games or reading. He might also spend time with his family, playing with his children, or just relaxing with his wife. Eventually, it would be time for bed. The pharaoh would change into a nightgown and get into his royal bed. He would be surrounded by his wives and concubines, as well as his guards, and so the day of the pharaoh would come to an end. What did you think? Did you know that the pharaoh's day started so early? How about the fact that they took 2 baths a day? If you want to learn more about ancient Egypt, stay tuned.